For this last short video, I'm going to talk a little bit about when things go wrong in our Markdown. Our Markdown can be a little bit finicky sometimes, and when you get error messages, it's going to cause your whole document to fail to knit. So that can be kind of frustrating sometimes because errors, normally we get an error message and we try to figure out what was wrong with that one line of code. But here, if we create an error somehow, if we have an error, our whole document is just going to fail. So that can be a little frustrating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce some errors into this document and show you how we might troubleshoot those situations. So let's try a really common error, which would be a missing parentheses. So for example, here in line 96, I have my library command. Let's say that I just forgot that closing parentheses there. That's a super common error that we might run into. And so I'm going to try to knit the document with that issue in the code. Okay, so let me make the bottom panel a little bigger here so we can actually see what's going on. So it gives me an error message. I don't see my document pop up and it gives me an error message. And this one's actually quite helpful because it tells me the exact line. It says line 96, quitting from lines 96 to 100. So this right here is lines 96 to 100. It says execution halted because of something in lines 96 to 100. And so now I can go back and examine those lines. And maybe I try to hit play here. And when I hit play, I get an error down here, unexpected symbol in ggplot. And so this is going to help me, and I'll just examine, I'll rerun the code, help me try to get clues about what error occurred that's messing up my knitting process. And eventually I notice, okay, I need a parentheses here. And if I knit again, now that I've fixed the error, we shouldn't have an issue. There we go. Here's my document. Another situation that can arise in our Markdown are issues with sequence. So when you're coding in our Markdown, it's sometimes easy to just sort of unintentionally, casually hit play and run different chunks of code out of sequence. When R knits the document, it goes from top to bottom, so everything is in sequence. But you as the user can scroll up and down and can run different things. So let me show you an example of this and why it might be bad. So example of an error resulting from a sequence issue. So let's say that I'm interested in I'm interested in creating a new object called student grades. So I create a little vector of student grades, 90, 91, 95, 78, 86. So there's my student grades vector. And then I want to calculate the mean of the grades. So I insert another little code chunk and I calculate the mean of the grades. And it's 88. And let's say I want to save that. So grades mean, I'm creating a new object called grades mean. And let's say for some reason, I then go back up to this code chunk and I say print grades mean. So when I'm doing things by hand, if I run this right now, it gives me an error and it says object grades mean not found. And I'm like, oh, okay, you can't find grades mean. So let me run this. So I run this and I create grades mean, and then I go back up here And I run this, and now it works, and I'm able to print grades mean here, so it looks like it's working. But the problem is that as I've scrolled up and down and pushed play, I've run the code out of sequence. I can't do print grades mean until I create grades mean, so this command really needs to go after this command. And so watch what happens when I try to knit. All right, so it gives me another error here. It says line 106. So that's here. Quitting from lines 106 to 108, which is this chunk right here. And it just says execution halted, right? So it's telling me there's a problem with this chunk, but it's not really telling me what the problem is. So to investigate that, I would want to hit play. And unfortunately, because I've been messing around so much, I get the output and it looks to me like there's not an issue. So this is a case where if I couldn't figure it out on my own, I might want to close RStudio or sweep my environment, clear my environment. And then I might want to go through step by step and run each chunk of code to make sure it all works. So I would run my first chunk of code and then my second chunk of code. And I believe there's actually some shortcuts to do this as well. So let's see. Okay, so let's actually, so I found it in this menu here, but I think there's actually even a shortcut up here. So you see this run command up at the top. There are some options here, and the one I'm really looking for is at the bottom, run all. If I clear my environment and then I hit run all, it's going to run every single chunk of code sequentially, and that's going to help me see where the issue is. So when I click run all with a clear environment, now I get an error message for this problematic chunk, and it says object grades mean not found. And so now I realize, oh, oops, I did things out of order. I need to move this print command. And I need to put that after grades mean. And now if I knit, I get my document. So I think the main takeaway from this is, number one, if you make an error, it's going to cause your document to not knit correctly. And when that happens, you need to look specifically at the lines that are cited in the message down here. So like here, line 112. And then a lot of times this will direct you to the lines, but it won't really help you figure out what the problem is. So a lot of times you then need to go to the lines and hit the play button to try and actually figure out what the relevant error is, like here, incomplete expression. So I need that parentheses.